up going to the El Grullo food truck, 85-cent street tacos. It was like I had never understood why kids went to Taco Bell.
No, like
But
You can tell these two are from the peninsula.
Yeah, 100%. And my wife loves it. She's from Roseville.
Yeah. There you go.
But she likes the bean and cheese burrito. I mean, that's what she wants.
Well,
she wants
okay,
like 2 or 3.
But that's like, I get those Amy ones that I freeze and they taste exactly the same.
No, they do not.
That's why she's the chef.
That's exactly right. Welcome back to the Dine 16, episode 2 of season 2. I'm your host, Max Connor. This is the show where we take you behind the scenes and introduce you to some of the people making your favorite dining experiences happen in Sacramento. I am joined by my friend and co-host, Neil Little. Neil, what's going on, man?
Ooh, we are back in barbecue weather, my friend.
Oh, yes.
I am so happy with this time of year. I have been firing up that grill quite a bit, hanging out in the back patio. I will be honest, I was actually a little bit late to work the other day because I was legitimately sitting watching a brisket. It happens. If you smoke, you understand, but you just kind of want to be with it. It's fun. No, so yeah, I've been doing a lot of barbecuing. Actually, this episode will come out later today. So earlier this week, I actually made some, let me say this correctly, al pastor marinated pork belly burnt ends.
Ooh, man.
For everyone at work. And they were, shout out to Danny for giving me that marinade. It was absolutely delicious. In my family, we have it's a funny relationship we have with pork. Until this last year, those of you that know my family and my family is listening, my parents lived in the Middle East. So for 15, good Lord, almost 17 years, they lived in the Middle East. Now, one of the things in the Middle East is no one eats pork. So every year, my parents come home. My mom's first thing she does when she gets off the plane, it's like her beagle nose goes off. She's like, I need pork. Whether it's bacon, pork chop, usually it's bacon. But one of her biggest cravings, and as you know, I grew up in Hawaii, is a Spam musubi. Spam is this delicious, it's kind of like sausage. Just don't ask questions about it, but it's salty and delicious.
That's right.
And every time my mom comes home, one of the first things she craves is a Spam musubi. So not this last summer, but the summer before she comes home and she says, hey, I've been doing some research. I found this lovely little joint out in East Sac. Let's go check it out. So she picks me up. We head out there. And of course, we get some Spam musubi and some other little Hawaiian tapas. And the food was outstanding. The Spam was perfect. Nice sticky rice, not falling apart rice. That's a very big key. But the food was just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, and that place, for people who don't know where Neil is talking about, is called Cow Cow in East Sac, which is where Evan's Kitchen used to be, if you're not familiar. And our guests today are the couple behind this restaurant, Amanda Bridger, who is the chef and creator of these delicious recipes, as well as Chris Tocchini, who's her partner, who manages the front of the house. And they were an absolute blast to talk to. They're a couple from San Francisco. They transplanted here to Sacramento during COVID. And, you know, it's funny. So many people started cooking during COVID. And she is one of the few people who went from cooking in her home kitchen during COVID to opening her own restaurant, to doing a pop-up that was so popular that they decided we should just keep this going and open a brick and mortar restaurant. And so their story is a really fun and unique one in Sacramento, and we're really excited to bring it to you. We love it when we get to have two guests on. We love it when we get to have a couple on to talk about what it's like to work in the crazy world of restaurants and run a business together, and what it's like to make delicious Hawaiian food, which is what they do. Before we get to the interview, just a quick note. Most of our episodes have a few explicit words here and there, but this one's got a lot of them. We let it rip here. So just a heads up on that, especially if you've got little kids in the car with you or in the kitchen. You don't want them to hear some foul language. This might be one to listen to without them around. So without further ado, let's listen to our interview with Amanda Bridger and Chris Tocchini of Cow Cow. Well, Amanda Bridger, Chris Tocchini, thank you so much for being here on the Dine 16. It's great to have you two here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll start with you, Amanda. What was food like for you growing up in the home? I know that plays a big role, certainly, in what you all do at Cow Cow.
Yes and no. Both my parents worked, so a lot of the food that we ate growing up was going to be stuff like casserole, stuff that we could have left overnight, you know? So nothing was Chris is just sitting on the edge of his seat to chime in with his drastically different experience. But
I just love it when you say casserole.
It's so true. We did. We ate a lot of casseroles, and we'd go out to dinner for special occasions, things like that. But I would say the home cooked meals that we had were not real big affairs.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nevada City, so not too far from here. And weekends at Grandma's, that was the connection to Hawaii. That's when we would have, chicken teriyaki and rice. Those were the kinds of dinners that she cooked. So I'd say because my grandmother was a stay-at-home mom and then my mom worked, that the more memorable home-cooked ones would probably be at my grandmother's, my grandparents.
Chris, what about you?
Oh, there was Catholicism and then food.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty much it. Like I'm fascinated when she talks about like dining or like even eating at home because like my family's in the produce business too. So I didn't even know what a canned or a frozen vegetable was until I was like 12. And one of the kids I went to grammar school with, their parents, they were from Cincinnati, Ohio, and they even had the accent. It was a lot of fun. But I was like, we're going to have peas and carrots. I was staying over at my friend's house for the first time for dinner. And I go, well, do you want me to shell the peas or peel the carrots? And the lady goes, what are you talking about? And reaches into the freezer and throws 2 bags in front of me and goes, put them in a colander and stick them in the sink. I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, just so you know, they have frozen peas and carrots. She goes, don't worry, honey. I'll make sure and I'll have a plate for you when you get home. And it was like pasta bolognese, but with like the family sauce. So there's like little pancetta and some different stuff in it, like a pork chop and some artichoke hearts. And she's like, here, this will make you feel better. I'm like, thanks. I don't know what these people eat. It was like the green jello with the pears floating in it. But I mean, like we'd get boxes of produce and clean the produce. We'd get boxes of Roma tomatoes. I've never seen my parents more thrilled until they put out the little machine that takes the skin and the seeds off the tomatoes. She's like, this is great. Making sugo is so much easier. You know what I mean? So like we'd have, and like of course we'd finish breakfast, and my mom would clean up, and like we'd go do something. Like an hour later, who wants a snack? You guys want some cheese and crackers? I'm just gonna put out some cheese and crackers. We can do that. So we had the bridge. We ate like hobbits. It was fantastic. And it was like, like everything, every holiday, like Thanksgiving, we'd do the Americani Thanksgiving. So we'd have the turkey, the stuffing, all the 9, We wouldn't go as far as like the all in the family sweet potatoes with the marshmallow on top, you know what I'm saying? But it would have like all of that. But like the stuffing would have Italian sausage in it, and then there'd be butterflied quail stuff with pancetta and rosemary, and some bolognese, a little bit of like pesto over here, some different kinds of chicken cutlets, and like two full Thanksgivings. It was great. Like
Sounds
there was
amazing.
nothing. Oh, it did not suck.
You would have been a nightmare to have over as a kid's friend.
No, because it was great because like we'd go get fast food or they'd
Oh,
order
okay,
a
that makes
pizza.
sense
So,
too,
like,
yeah.
all the treat food for like doing something good was what they normally ate. So like, this is great. I get to eat this crap and then go home and have like a real dinner, Like the cioppino took like 2 days. Like my parents would always have a pot boiling on the stove. Like there was always something going on. It's super reminiscent of everything that we do. She takes a locomoco, and rather than buying the frozen patties, we hand do them. And like she'll take the gravy, and our first chef did a great job helping us out making this gravy. And I got to give credit where credit is due. It's
100%.
It's a 3-day. We basically make a super fancy diamond glaze. But then we zhuzh it up. I can't give you all the goddamn secrets. The process of dry aging the chicken before we serve it to people, it gives it that nice little edge, that little tweak that makes it just better than. I'm not going to mention any company names, but, there's the Olive Garden and there's Alora, let's say. You know what I mean? And there's no shade thrown on any of them. I want never-ending goddamn breadsticks. Is this
right.
a body that says no to bread? No. I mean, you can tell by watching me waddle up the fucking street, dude. It's like, yeah, that guy likes a dessert. You're like, you're fucking goddamn right I do. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's making something basic a little prettier. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And a couple bucks more because we put more effort into it. Oh, well, I mean, what's that going to hurt anybody?
I don't have a budget when it comes to food. Like I will budget for other things, but if I want prosciutto and brie and crackers one night for dinner,
Yeah.
guess what I'm doing?
Yeah, you're a goddamn adult. You can eat a Snickers before it, too.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm so glad you said Snickers. I had the worst moment the other night. I thought I bought a Snickers ice cream bar from 7-Eleven, but it was actually just a frozen Snickers bar.
That's
got home.
No, that's
No.
fucking
Ruined my
bullshit.
night right
That's
there.
bullshit.
Like I took one bite and almost broke a tooth. I was
Yeah.
like,
I don't agree.
Yeah.
I do not agree. I would tell him to get those things out of there or put them in a different
no,
section.
I think here's what I thought what someone did. I think someone had a Snickers, saw a Snickers ice cream, and just went
Well, double fuck them then.
Well, yeah,
That's just mean.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, that's like parking in 2 spots when you have to pull in real quick to take a leak. Like someone taking 2 spots.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yep.
You just don't do that.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry.
Hard tangent there. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of these on this podcast.
I'm just over here in shock. I'm mourning for you because oh my god.
Okay, and to top it all off,
horrified.
I bought a Snickers ice cream and a Twix ice cream. And I saved the Snickers ice cream. I had the Twix one night and the Snickers the next night. So it wasn't even like a day of thing where go back.
You planned your reward ahead of time?
I planned it.
And it wasn't
Well, no,
right
it was
reward?
even better than planned. I had forgotten about it.
Oh,
and
you
then
got a
refound
bonus.
it. Yeah, it was a bonus
Yes.
one.
Oh,
Yep,
beautiful.
Yep. Because it was underneath the frozen peas.
Hey, look, I found a couple of corn dogs the other day in the freezer, and I was doing cartwheels. I was like, I didn't know you were still here. Thank you for emotional support, corn dogs. Yep. So that's what being in the restaurant business will get to you, folks. Come on down.
This is how it works.
Minimum wage and psychiatric problems. Let's go.
So how did either of you know food was in your immediate future growing up, or was that a stumbled upon passion?
I think I always really enjoyed cooking once I was kind of at the age to be interested in cooking, a little older as a child, maybe as a young teenager. It started, cooking for myself. I stopped eating meat when I was 12, so there was some stuff that I had to start kind of doing for myself. So I kind of just started developing a little bit of an interest, and I think that I kind of always considered myself a slightly better than average home cook, but nothing that would have catapulted me into running a kitchen professionally. Just that I really enjoyed doing it. And then I started working in restaurants, and that was back in the day. I started working in restaurants when I was 19. I was always front of house, and I just continued doing it. And when the pandemic hit, it was one of those things where it was like a real head scratcher. I was like, I don't know if I really want to go back to my job. I was kind of burning out on it. Everybody was kind of expiring. Like I expired, They expired, and it just... There was a lot of downtime to kind of 20 question myself. And I also had a lot of time that was downtime. And if you're in the restaurant business, a lot of downtime is spent in bars. So in order to keep myself out of bars when it's the only thing that's open in the middle of a pandemic in North Beach in San Francisco, I started cooking a lot. The restaurant that I worked at, they basically said, anybody with a car, anybody who lives in the neighborhood, come on by and take whatever fresh food you want. So I did, and I ended up making a couple different big batches of soup and taking some deli containers and just giving it away.
There were a bunch of people out of work, so she was feeding coworkers and colleagues and making sure the older set that there's not a whole lot of planning for the future in our line of work. So some of the older guys that got bounced out, she was definitely feeding, which was really cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that started, and I wanted to focus it a little bit more. And it occurred to me that this Hawaiian food that my grandmother grew up cooking at home, and we spent a lot of time in Hawaii. My mom still has family out there. So it was always a special place for us as a family to spend time together. So eating a lot of food. I remember the first time I had Simon, or at least I remember having Simon as a kid and really loving it. And having that kind of sense memory of something that is not as readily available right around here. So that was kind of like, well, there's just like a little bit of a back of the envelope cocktail math that there really wasn't some place that was doing it a little bit better than the styrofoam box places.
Mm-hmm. I was actually raised in Hilo.
Oh,
where in Hawaii was your family from?
Oh, okay. So my grandmother grew up in Honolulu.
Okay.
She went to Roosevelt High.
Okay.
So, but she was born in 1918. Her mom was.
She saw a lot.
Her mom saw a lot. Her mom went from horse-drawn streetcars to jet travel.
Dang.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So her mom was born in a little town on the Big Island on that kind of northern tip that doesn't, I don't think, exist anymore.
In Kahala, though?
That kind of northern area. Yeah, exactly. My ancestors settled kind of like that northeastern coast, and there was a stretch of it back in the day. And I don't know, I haven't looked at any historical maps or anything, but it's a little stretch of that coast that was called the Scotch Coast. There were so many Scotsmen who kind of made an enclave in that area, and that was where my ancestor originally came from via New York, then via San Francisco, then to Hawaii.
Traveling very west.
Traveling very, very west with his family.
So actually, he asked me to explain your restaurant earlier. And what did I tell you?
He said, tell them it's very Hilo.
It's very
That's
Hilo.
what he said.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, very light, bright, like not the ostentatious Hawaii tourism, but like I love all the old maps you have up on the wall and things like that. Yeah. Like all those.
I hung the fucking drywall. You think I did anything style wise? I'm wearing an Evil Dead.
No, I didn't say you didn't follow her lead.
No, I just said yes, dear. So put that over there. I'm like, all right, can I move the Quikrete? Like, what do I have to cut today?
But yeah, it felt very like light and plants and Hawaiian and just very like Hawaii that I grew up with, not the like Waikiki Honolulu.
It's not beating you over the head with the concept. That was kind of always part of the concept, was that it was gonna not beat you over the head with Hawaii. We don't have surfboards on the wall. We're not playing Hawaiian music, and that irks people to no end. And it actually kind of delights us because we don't need to listen to that all day, every day.
When they say
listen.
mahalo, I go prego. It's like I would feel phony, like being aloha, everybody, come on in.
Yeah.
Oh, what's your last name? Tocchini. It's like, oh yeah, what island is that from? Oh, it's more of a peninsula. I'll explain later. Let's do a little world history. I don't wear a kimono to go eat sushi. I don't have to listen to Hawaiian music. And these morons, these same fucking morons, they're the ones that go, we really should put some stuffed parrots up.
This is not Margaritaville.
And you just want to shake them and say they don't have parrots in Hawaii.
They're not from Hawaii.
They don't have monkeys. They don't have any of those things.
Stop.
So.
You're just like, stop. I'm already uncomfortable because she already got blasted for cultural appropriation through food. And as long as I have to fucking look at an Olive Garden, and nobody should say a fucking word. And I know Jose's back in San Francisco that cook better pasta than your Italian uncle. So everybody calm the fuck down, please.
Yep.
Everybody take a deep breath.
So I appreciate that you kind of get what we're all about. We're highlighting the food. We want you to have the vibe that you are someplace maybe tropical, but it's not beating you over the head with the concept.
So how did a loquacious Italian end up in a Hawaiian
I know
kitchen?
an Italian was something to say. How fucking weird.
Oh,
I
shocking.
heard water is still wet too, just to throw it out there. No, I was lazy one summer, and at that point, I never should have left this job too. I'm so stupid. I was working on big block Chevys, like OMC Mercruiser boat engines. I had the nicest. This guy, I knew nothing about engines. This guy took me in, was super patient with me, dealt with all my mistakes, taught me a ton about engines and like all that stuff. I leave this kind, wholeheartedly fostering, I want you to do well environment to a restaurant run by a bunch of insane inbred Sicilians.
You left Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, basically to go to the fucking the dojo. What was the other?
Cobra Kai.
Thank you.
Yeah, defected.
I've not had any coffee yet, so I apologize. That should have been locked and loaded.
Oh, I thought you were going Mojo Dojo Casa House on us.
We could do that. Or I was thinking about dodgeball.
Oh, yeah. The Ben Stiller. Yep.
Yeah, I go, Dad, I'm lazy this summer. It's like, I was like, you got friends that own stuff? He's like, you're funny. I go, well, can you just get me a job? So he called the late, great Joey Alioto, and they stuck me in the warehouse, cleaning fish and cracking crab and putting away orders. And then I got this one guy that ran the warehouse at the time called me lazy. So I picked him up by his jacket and shook him, because if there's one thing I'm not lazy at work. I will be lazy everywhere else, but there's not a second where I'm not doing something. So they transferred me to the crab stand, and then this guy comes. I've been at the crab stand, I think this is my second summer, and this kid comes out. He's around my age, and he's wearing a suit. He's one of the managers. And most of the people I had met, if you're at Fisherman's Wharf at this point in history, you've either been there for a while, you know somebody that owns the place, or it's your last stop. So this guy comes out, and I'm leaning there, these Dutch doors on the crab stand at the time, and I'm having a smoke, and he's like, hey, man, why don't you grab a broom and sweep some stuff up? So I take a long drag off my cigarette, and I look at him, and I go, why don't you go fuck yourself? So he looks at me, and he's like, good enough. Turns around and walks away. So that night I'm sitting at my parents' house, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, this guy, Nick, his last name started with a P, and my dad looks at me, and he goes, Pizzolo. I go, yeah. He came out and tried to tell me to do some shit. He's like, well, what'd you say to him? I said, I told him to go fuck himself. He goes, you are the dumbest child. And I go, well, what are you talking about? He goes, Roseanne Alioto. I'm like, yeah, you grew up with her in the marina. Frank Alioto's daughter, owner of the restaurant. And he goes, yeah, glad you know her, because she married Ron Pizzolo. So the next day I go up, I go, Nick, man, look, if I knew. He's like, no, it's fine, cocksucker. Just see, it came back. Like that was like a term of endearment in that fucking family, I swear to God. But he goes, don't worry about it. So he and I get this odd kind of like figuring it out. We like circle each other for a couple months. Like, all right. And then we go out and get hammered one night. And he's like, you're all right. I'm like, you're not so bad yourself. So we became friends. So I started bartending in the restaurant. And the rest is history.
Neil, listening back, I feel like this episode is kind of a perfect encapsulation of the mission statement of why we wanted to do this show and why we like doing it, which is when I hear the story of Chris and Amanda starting Cow Cow, when I hear their stories of eating growing up, when I hear the story of Amanda just starting to cook her grandmother's food for a sense of comfort during COVID and cooking for other people, you hear their story, and for me, it just makes me want to run out and eat their food right away and feel that connection to the food and the story. And that's what this podcast is all about.
Exactly. It's the why the food is on the menu, and it's really where the passion comes from. I know we cut a lot out, and we talked a lot about Amanda and her cooking during COVID, but Chris is also a part of the brains of this organization. That might be using brains a little bit liberally, but he had 20 plus years of experience in San Francisco, so he knew the ins and outs and the expectations of what it was going to take to open this restaurant, and really just let Amanda's passion drive them to where they are now.
Yeah, like you said, he spent 20 years managing and bartending restaurants in San Francisco, including managing Original Joe's, which is a really well-known spot in San Francisco. What we haven't heard yet, though, is how these two got together in the first place. So let's jump back in with Chris and Amanda talking about how they met and got together.
So how did you two meet?
Well, she kept hitting on me.
Oh, God. No, go ahead. Yeah, we worked together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were drinking buddies and friends. And, one thing led to another. I way outkicked my coverage as usual. Anytime I date a girl, it always looks like, she saved a gorilla from the zoo and kind of half shaved him, took him off the leash for 20 minutes. And like every time it's like, really? Her? I'm like, I think it's funny too.
She'll return you to Front Street later.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, we worked together drinking buddies, and then she did the kindness of teaching me how to travel and enjoy life a little bit, which is wonderful because I had no idea how to do that. I knew how to work.
So what made you go from cooking in the kitchen to really thinking about doing a pop-up?
Well,
when did you become suicidal?
That was such a loaded question. There have been definitely some dark days doing this. But no, it was still the middle of the pandemic. A friend of mine who works for Kimio Bassett, who owns Golden Bear and
Hook and Ladder.
Hook and Ladder. Sorry. It used to be Hangar 17 way back in the day. Sorry, I'm aging myself. Hook and Ladder. Anyways, she said she kind of offered the pop-up, and at around the same time, her partner, who knew of somebody real close by, said that they were looking for someone to run the kitchen at their business because they needed to sell more food. It was during the pandemic, so they were still having those rules about alcohol sales tied to food sales. So we had a frank discussion about, like, do you want to just wait this out here in San Francisco? And I don't know, that there was some sort of appeal, I think, to both of us to try something different. And we said, let's give it a year.
I wanted to back you up, period. I mean, I can do what I do all over the world.
Yeah.
And I know I'm good enough at it where I could pick up a job here or there.
Sure.
And I'm not patting myself on the back. I've just done it for 25 fucking years, in high volume places. So,
100%.
Regardless, I wanted to see it work because you were so into it.
Yeah.
And I've been
It was
tasting
exciting.
the food for 2 goddamn months. Of course, I wanted to see other people eat it at this
That
point.
was
Not
it too.
bad.
That I'd done a lot of the recipe development, so it seemed like, well,
Simon Month was good.
let's give this a shot.
And it was like we were both paying, like, she was paying over $2,000. I was paying just under for a studio. And I'm tired. I'm like I said, I've spent my whole life in San Francisco and in Marin County a little bit. But like my family's there. I went to high school there. I went to college there. Oh, so she said, this seems like a good idea. And I said, why not? Because, I mean, if I'm going to go back to doing the same shit I was doing in San Francisco, I might as well do it backing up her. and I can sell. Like it's not that difficult. And I had good product to sell, so I wasn't that worried about it. The only thing that worried me was navigating the pandemic. I'd already been doing that in like one of the most high pressure restaurant environments in the world. Probably like top 20, San Francisco, easy,
Sure.
Easily.
yeah. So, but there's places in Taiwan and like Singapore that we have to remember. There's like, it's pretty
big
broad,
world.
but
Yeah.
but I'd still put it up there pretty high because
Yeah.
it's fucking nuts. Any place people travel to go to eat, you have to be on your fucking toes. So we did that and navigating. She brought me up here during wildfires and smoke everywhere.
yeah.
It was so funny because
It was the middle of summer. It was a brutal heat wave, and we're moving, and it was.
And it was insane. So that part, and not only that, wondering if you can bring home a communicable disease that could kill anybody around you before they knew anything about it. I'm sitting there making sure some lady knows what her HIPAA rights are and not wearing a fucking mask while serving them a $7 cider.
Yeah.
Like, no pressure. I'll be fine. I'm going to be in the corner crying for 20 minutes before my shift just to prep.
So how did Sacramento, was that the Nevada, was that kind of like halfway in between, more or less?
We had the connection of doing the pop-up. We did a pop-up at the Golden Bear, and then that led to a little bit more of a permanent pop-up, which is kind of a residency at the artist formerly known as Cider House. It's now called Midtown Lounge, which is right around the corner from the Golden Bear. And we ended up doing a pop-up there for, I think it was about 10 months, so it was just a little bit shy of a year. Launched the brand that way with really low stakes.
And she had to figure out how to work a cold kitchen with a bad panel. So like, I'd be out in front, like, all right, so here's your masubi. I have your Hawaiian chips coming because like that was our baseline. Like you have to order something. So for like, what was it, $2.50 or something?
Some just basically like we need to put food in front of you in order for you to have alcohol.
And I was like, it costs you $2 to get drunk. Like I got cops walking by, like, are they eating? I'm like, oh, you motherfucker, just put the chips on the table, dumb shit. I just don't want them. Like, why are you so opposed to?
Yeah, it was wild when you think back about how many rules and the goalposts constantly shifting.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to kind of keep up, roll with the punches on that. And so at the end of 10 months, we decided to take a break and regroup. And that's when we ended up in Waikiki for a few days. I had Miles, and he found a great room rate. And it was like, let's just go to a place where we don't need a car. So it was Waikiki. And it was great. I mean, the beach there is beautiful. So a lot of beach time, which was outstanding. And came back and started looking around and found the artist formerly known as Evan's Kitchens had closed, which in East Sac. And while we had looked at some places in Midtown, our apartments in Midtown, we love Midtown. That's kind of our speed. That's our vibe. These are our people. The fact that there was, a second generation restaurant space with pretty favorable terms on the lease and parking. So much free parking, which is a huge, huge, huge thing in Sacramento. You get people from the outlying areas that don't like coming, quote unquote, downtown. If it's a number or a letter street, they don't want to go there because there's never any parking. Well, we actually do have parking, so.
I grew up with a different downtown.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
This downtown
It's an alphabet.
Cute.
It's not hard.
So how has Sacramento, if in any way, influenced your cuisine as you've gone on? Has it had any influence in what you've done?
Not necessarily. I mean, using local vendors like Produce Express, things like that. Sure, if there's stuff that's in season, I might try and work it in.
Do you find difficulty in finding some products? Or is everything attainable these days?
It seems like everything's pretty attainable. I do have some small specialty vendors that I use out of the Bay Area, out of San Francisco, that, like the Japanese and Hawaiian food importers. So sometimes there's, a little bit of a lag time on things because it has to be shipped from Hawaii to, it's wild. I get bread, and I'm sure they ship the flour from here to there, and then they ship the bread from there back here, and it seems a little bit fussy. But that's just the nature of using the ingredients from this place.
Yeah, but staying true to the source material is what it's all about.
Yeah,
we want to make it like your mom's cooking it.
Yeah.
That's really the most important thing, is that it's taking, in my mind, these kind of styrofoam box joint favorites and bringing it up to speed for a sit-down restaurant.
Yeah, so we pull the gristle out of the fucking Kahlua pork, man.
Yeah.
And you've had that Foodland plate, too. I was talking to this 80-year-old lady from Waikiki, right? Now she was like, your Kahlua pork is so lean. I'm like, well, we actually hand separate all the meat. And she goes, you 2? I go, I know, it's crazy because I've had that plate from Foodland where it's just like one hunk of gristle and like a little like strip of meat hanging off the side. It looks like a hangnail, you're like, oh, but yeah. So it's like all the little touches she wanted to incorporate, taking time. Look, we all like packet gravy, but you can't eat it every day.
Yeah.
Like
So
I love,
bomb.
right.
Yeah.
I love French cooking, but I can hide anything with butter and salt. This is why I really got down on the concept of what she was doing. You have the ingredients, let them work. Like when we make pasta, there's a pasta that my family makes that I love. It's cherry tomatoes, some basil leaves, a little olive oil, a little butter. We throw the cherry tomatoes in until they pop. That makes your sauce. You pour it over capellini, throw in some little mozzarella balls, let them soften up, or a little with a scoop of ricotta on top. Why do you need anything else?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. We have this beautiful gravy that takes 3 days to make. Okay, well, why would we give you packet gravy if we can do that? We have the scampi sauce. Why not get whole cloved garlic, clean them, and then chop them up ourselves? It takes out, because they put a goddamn additive in that chopped garlic to keep it, because when it hits copper, it turns green. I can't remember the name of the chemical reaction.
Yeah, I can't.
It's really weird. Like, I didn't know this shit because I've never seen jarred goddamn garlic in my life. The vowel's at the end of the name. You know what I mean? So, like, I watched them sit there and painstakingly cut the ends off the garlic, throw it in a food processor, process it, simmer it really low and slow to make sure it softens up and it doesn't get bitter and it doesn't burn and stick. And they throw in butter, so they make the scampi sauce that takes a few hours. And like the Japanese marinara, they make the curry, but it starts out like the same way with the veg, and they cook it down and cook it down and cook it down. And it's like doing these extra steps. Yeah, the packet stuff tastes hella good, but like we just want to make sure that it tastes that much better. And yeah, it takes a couple extra minutes. Holy shit, so sorry. Go to the plate place if you want to get a quick plate that's been sitting in a steam table.
And you'll get exactly what you're probably after. You're going to get, the katsu sauce on the katsu. We decided that we didn't want to do katsu sauce on the katsu, that we wanted to do curry katsu, only because a lot of the other sauces that we have on the menu do have a lot of sugar in them. And that, I would say, that food tends towards a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, and a lot of fat. But to try and give at least one other option was important to me.
But also there's something to be said about, like, I want to taste what the chef is trying to present to me. I don't want what I had in Waikiki or things like that. I mean, yes, I would love to be in Waikiki, but it's like when I go to a restaurant, kind of why we're doing this, like, give me when I was in there the other night, I handed the menus back to you.
Yeah.
I was like, no. Give me a meal here. What do you do well? What do you guys want to do?
I just gave you the snack pack.
And it was awesome,
yeah,
too.
It's exactly what you like when you were at tapas. I'm like, all right, I get it.
Yep.
There's a couple other things that you can share that are easily pickable, but like the rest of it is like, it's plates. But like you had one of your questions that you sent was, what do you like to be able to do, or like what makes you happy about your job?
Yeah, what do you love about the hospitality business?
Letting us do our fucking jobs. Please, for the love of God. Great, you read a book or you watched a cooking show. You don't know what we do here. Sit down. Don't move furniture. If you need something different, ask first. Yeah, you don't like furniture movers either, do you?
No.
They're my least fucking favorite. I'll just do this. No, just don't do that. Please, don't do that. Please. Ask first. Let us do our jobs.
Yeah.
But just let us do what we're there to do. It's like everybody's waiting for this huge gotcha moment so they can yelp about something negative rather than going out to fucking dinner with somebody. This is where it pisses me off. As an Italian, it's like, this is a sacred moment.
It reminds me of, there was a woman who sent, I think, a message through Instagram or some channel wanting to complain, and I reached out, or I responded, like, trying to get a little bit more information so that I could fix whatever problem it was that she was having. The response was, just go check Yelp. I was like, okay, so you had a bad time, and instead of working with me to try and fix it so that someone else later on doesn't have the same negative experience, you're just going to put me on blast. And I don't know, it's just having a tantrum, I guess.
Yeah, this is like, so there's this movie called Cat's Eye, Stephen King movie, where they would like kidnap people if they started smoking and torture them. What I want to do is when somebody puts up a bad Yelp review, they get kidnapped and you get dropped in a fucking Applebee's in Nebraska. And you have to work there for 6 months to earn your way out and see how fucking happy you are at the end of it. And there are people there's people that are handing you food that have been doing it for like 10 or 15 years. And you get us to the point where like whipped dogs, we just want the one pet on the head a night. It's like literally working at the wharf broke me. Like seriously, it would be like we'd all get in a little cluster. It's like table 6 is saying please and thank you. Well, should we buy him a drink? Fuck it. Let's get him dessert or something.
Bill.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, like what are we gonna do here? Like let's knock off 50% and tell them they better come back.
And you can always tell the people that have worked in restaurants.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
But
like
we've said we want to introduce legislation that you can't eat at a restaurant unless you've worked at a restaurant. It's like
That's hot.
It's like the military in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
It's like when you're 18, guess what? You're not going to college. You're going to work in a restaurant for 6 months, and then you get a little card on your license that says I'm allowed to eat here because I know it actually goes on back
It's
there.
a Class E
And,
license.
That's exactly right. So tell us a little bit more about the food at Cow Cow. You talked about the gravy. Tell us a little bit more about what makes it special beyond your styrofoam box.
Well, Chris touched on it. A lot of the homemade touches that we do, we're not just opening up a bag of frozen chicken tenders and throwing them in the fryer. That we dry age the chicken, and we just take a couple extra steps and process some of the food in house and do all of the sauces homemade. I think that's kind of a big one. Is everything having that kind of homemade touch that it's not just ripping open a packet and adding hot water, giving it a stir, and sending it out.
Yeah,
you can tell. That kimchi the other night was outstanding.
Yeah.
That's the best batch we've made so far.
Oh, it was good. Yeah, that was fantastic. But that with those meatballs was just...
I'm telling you, dude, those meatballs. She always.
Grandma always had meatballs on the table if it was a Christmas party or whatever.
She
It was
consults
always
the fat
meatballs.
kid though. She was like, "We're losing the chicken poop, but what do you want to put on that?" I'm like, fucking sweet and sour meatballs. Are you kidding?
One of the things that I love that Amanda and Chris are doing are they're taking some of my childhood food memories and redoing them in a much better way. A lot of us grew up playing Little League, and I vividly remember in Hilo, when we would get done with Little League, we would go to the snack shack, and one of the options you could get was a Loco Moco. Now, this was the Loco Moco that was a little bit old rice, hamburger patty, definitely well done, egg was definitely well done, and the gravy packet on top. And I have such fond memories of that food. And I really love that Amanda and Chris are now taking those foods and redoing them in such a beautiful way. They're getting the real macaroni and cheese. They're getting a demi-glazed sauce on top, a perfectly over-easy egg, a handcrafted perfect patty on top of the sticky rice. It just takes it and elevates it in such a way that I love it so much. And it's my ratatouille moment. It takes me right back home, but it's such a really, really good dish.
Yeah, that's great. I love when people can take simple dishes and just give you better food and yet still hit those touch points of what you had in your childhood. That's absolutely phenomenal. And I love the dynamic between the two of them. I mean, Chris is a restaurant lifer. He's got the war stories. He's hilarious. He's fun to listen to. And their whole dynamic back and forth is really fun. They're a little bit of an odd couple. It's a fun story.
Now, while a restaurant it is a lot of fun to be there in a very vibrant, delicious smelling environment. But once it closes down, there is a lot of work. So as we jump back into the episode, Amanda and Chris really tell us what it's like to actually operate and own a restaurant.
What's it like working together and owning a business together now? How's that transition been as partners? And
Turn
business
Chris's
partners?
microphone off for this.
No,
It's wonderful.
no, it's taken a toll. It has. It's a lot of long hours and it's a lot of slog. This isn't having drinks after work and planning our next vacation like it was in the before times. This is real big deal stuff, and it's been a lot of hard work. There have been a lot of rewards.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. Imagine your relationship. The best way to describe it is like you're in a car with no shocks on a bumpy country road, and the headlights don't work, and it's nighttime, and you just want to get home, and there's shit flying off the truck, but you've managed to roll in every night, and just as the truck completely falls apart, we crawl inside the cabin. I mean, it's a beating every day for both of us because she has her whole kitchen staff that she has to be emotionally supportive of, and I have my front of house people and her and the kitchen staff, and it goes all that way, and we're all trying to keep each other up because it's not easy. And we're pulling like a 16, 18-hour day on a Friday night. On a Friday going into Saturday where we have brunch and dinner service, I'm 46. I know I don't look that, go ahead and lie to me. I know I don't look that bad, but this is taking a toll. And we're working really hard to make sure all this stuff works. And do we want extra time for each other? Absolutely. We go out and see a movie. If either one of us stays awake for the whole movie, it's awesome.
It's a successful movie.
Yeah, well, like we saw Barbie, and we stayed awake for it. We were like high-fiving each other. Of course, I had like 4 gallons of Coca-Cola. I'm like, I'm going to caffeine my way right through this. You're not going to take me down this time. But it's hard. It's not easy. I mean, you don't even have time to really talk about a problem you may have had with somebody earlier that morning because your feet hit the ground and you're running.
Yeah, and 1,000 other things have happened between this morning and the end of the night, and you're tired. You want to go.
Do you know what a common question between us is? Like almost every day, was that today?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Was that today or was that yesterday? I don't know. It might have been 3 days ago. Like when I saw him, I was like, when did I see you? He's like, last week. I'm like, sure, that sounds great. Why don't we do that? Yeah, that's fine. Fucking fantastic, right? There's only, the redundancy is one.
Yeah.
Like we have one redundancy. That's it. I don't want to give any of the kids in front of the house keys to the place because it's a curse. Like, I got to tell you, it's a curse. Anytime we give somebody a key, they completely flame out. So I don't want to do that to people anymore. I want to be there for them instead. And that's just, it costs more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that is the reality of probably lots of small business ownership in just, the first couple years of operation. But restaurants especially, it's a lot of long hours.
So what are the hopes for the future at Cow?
Probably just working less.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have 2 days off in a row.
Are you guys 7 days a week?
We're not 7 days. We're only 5 days a week.
5, okay.
And then Monday is our Sabbath. It's our sacred day of rest. And then Tuesdays is a prep and receiving day.
That's where I get to clean the mats.
That's our
and go
short
shopping.
day. It's only an 8-hour day. So
Right.
Yeah, I can't, like, if anything happens and I get like just a regular job after this, it's gonna feel like vacation.
Oh, dude, yeah. Anything after a restaurant is easy.
Yeah.
Well, no, even if I go back to restaurant work, like I'm used to working 5 days a week. Like I don't know how to not work. It's like as my mother once put, God, she's the best. She goes, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. There's no aristocracy in our family." And I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, we have short necks and really broad palms and thick fingers. We're good for pulling the plow. And then when we drop, they put another one in our place." I'm like, "Shoot for the stars. I'm out." All right. Everybody else tells their kid they're going to be president. I'm going to be a plow horse. So this is great. But to her credit, I mean, that's the mentality I take to work. So, I mean, I'm going to have to drop before I stop working.
What'd you learn about running a kitchen? Had you worked in kitchens at all? I know you said you were working as a server, but
just for the pop-up. No, there was a huge learning curve. I never thought that this was what I was going to end up doing. Just it kind of happened this way, that it wasn't something that I was necessarily seeking out. This wasn't a dream of mine. I didn't have any ambition to go to culinary school. It just kind of happened the way that it happened.
Yeah.
And, to this day, people want to compliment the chef. They want me to come out and talk to them. And I still have imposter syndrome because first of all, this isn't my food. Sure, it's my menu. This is food that lots of other people are doing. This isn't something that I have developed on my own. This is something these are the foods that I grew up eating. These are the flavors that I would, expect to find in these dishes, but this is how I'm going to interpret them. And also, we got to play to our audience as well. They don't have poke bowls in Hawaii. They have poke, but that doesn't really sell here. You got to put it on some rice and zhuzh it up with some veggies and some sriracha mayo, and it's fine. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be times where we're going to have to make some tweaks to the menu so that it might not be 100% authentic. And that unfortunately does get some people a little bit upset.
Yeah, but it is authentic in that you're cooking from the heart, which is what I
agree.
I don't get that.
The only authentic is your grandma, where you grew up in your family. That's it. Sure. We haven't met a chef yet who likes the word authentic.
On that note, let's dive into some rapid fire questions. Chris, we will start with you because I feel like you're gonna have the best answers. What is your favorite cheap guilty pleasure?
There are so many, but I gotta go with the microwave corn dog. There's just something very bar S microwave corn dogs.
Microwave?
Yes. I don't
You
even
use the air fryer?
Nope.
No?
Thank you.
I want them,
What?
I want them greasy and
time to change the
disgusting.
locks.
I know, seriously.
I want them greasy and disgusting, and usually it's like I'll just wake up in the middle of the night. It's like I'm back working out a lot again, and I wake up in the middle of the night ravenous. But now it's just from working, so I get up and I'm sore, and I'm like, yeah, and I just throw them in there, and I put a pile of ketchup on the plate, and I'm just like, like crying while I eat it.
And you?
Oh, God, it's got to be Taco Bell.
No,
Oh, God, I love these
And
two.
I know you guys probably hear that a lot, but it's.
And then I grew up around great Mexican food, so like Taco Bell, and I never even thought about going there.
Yeah, that's.
I'm the same way with Taco Bell.
Yeah, I can't.
I grew up going to the El Grillo food truck, 85-cent street tacos. It was like I had never understood why kids went to Taco Bell.
No, like it's.
But-
You can
My
tell
wife-
these two are from
my
the
wife-
peninsula.
Yeah.
100%. And my wife loves it. She's from Roseville.
Yeah. There you go.
But she likes the bean and cheese burrito. I mean, that's what she wants.
Well,
She wants like
that's
2 or 3.
But that's like I get those Amy ones that I freeze and they taste exactly the same.
No, they do not.
That's why she's the chef.
That's exactly right.
Oh shit!
Favorite food, movie, or TV show?
Oh, God.
I literally have one locked and loaded.
Do you?
The
Go
Big
ahead.
Night.
Go ahead. I need a second.
The
to
Big
think.
Night. Stanley Tucci, where they make the timpani, the drum.
Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that whole soundtrack, like that fucking soundtrack came out. First of all, my whole family had heard all of those songs before like 500 times. And second of all, it was just like that was the soundtrack when we would cook as a family too.
I don't have the same kind of relationship, I think, with these things that you do.
Because it's a celebration.
It is.
That was the nicest way to call you a stoner who watches movies.
It's like, you're a fat ass. But I love you anyway.
I don't know if I have a good answer to this.
The Great British Bake Off.
Oh, we do like watching that.
Oh,
But
okay. No,
you
I
like
do,
that.
I do like it. Do you like it too?
No, I know, but this is the thing. I watch you watch it, and you're engaged.
I am engaged.
Yes,
they're
because-
so nice to each other. I
It's,
think that's what
it's
it is.
lovely.
It's
Yeah.
lovely. They're so nice to each other. They're so supportive. And if you ever worked in a restaurant, you don't get that as much. It's a lot of every man for themselves.
Yeah, and the chaos of the big night. You know, that's why I watch the big night, and I'm like, I want to go see him. I miss my family. You know, because like they fuck up picking up Louis Prima or whoever it was, the singer, and like, you know, the Louis Prima doesn't show up. I can't remember the plot. Oddly enough, I just remember the food. Fat ass. Yes, fat ass. I just remember how good the timpani looked at the end, man. Please. And we've made stuff like that before too. So it was like, but I watch you engage with that show, and it makes me happy. I'm like, that's how I feel about doing food stuff. It's just like, it makes you feel good.
I love Bake Off. New season just started.
I'm
I don't know
aware.
if you- Yeah. we watch I mean, my kids literally, they play British Bake Off with Play-Doh. And I found the soundtrack to the
that.
music
Get
on the
out.
thing. And I will put the sound, like when it gets into the final song, I'll be like, you have 2 minutes left, and I'll play that song. And my older daughter smiles. That's like their favorite
That's
make-believe
awesome.
game to play with me.
That's
on a
great.
Sunday. Yeah.
The fact they
Love
chose
that
something
show.
positive is rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other way ends up with people like this. You know, we're good. We can be finite. It's fine.
We need to be a dying breed.
Yeah, oh my God, please.
You guys mentioned you don't get to go out to eat a whole lot as where you are, but is there a local spot you know about that you'd love to shine a light on that is somewhere maybe not one of the places you commonly read about or hear about?
We were just talking about it last night. There's a great little Thai spot that we've only ever gotten takeout from. They do have a brick and mortar, but it's called Thai Farmhouse, and that's kind of one of our go-tos for getting Thai food if we get it. It's on Broadway near that Target there.
And when we crawl out of our usual, like our cave settings on days off, we've gone to Hook and Ladder. I've always liked it there.
Yep,
They've
we
always been
live
super
on the south side of Midtown. It's real
Nice.
close.
They've been super friendly. The food's always good.
It's a good industry joint.
It
Yeah.
is. People,
When
it's
you
been
walk in-
brought up a lot.
Yeah. Well, when you walk in, they go, "Oh yeah, you're one of us," and we're like, "Yes, we're trolls too. Let's put us in a corner. Feed us some booze. Bring us meat." Yeah.
All right, Amanda, Chris, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you
with
guys.
us.
This was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, I get to see you now.
I'll be there soon.
Good.
Yeah,
Let me harass you. Bring the kids,
I will.
please. How old are they?
Put 'em to work.
It's a very kid-friendly menu. You know,
Yeah.
we've got,
Oh, yeah.
we've got friends with little ones who are picky eaters, and I put the huli huli sauce on the eggs for him.
All right. You've heard me have this issue before, but Max, come on. Chef Mike, I respect a microwave, but do some justice by the corn dog. Get some crispiness on the outside. I love Chris. I trust everything he says. I think we have a lot of the same flavor palettes and what we like, but the crunch, I need it. We've gone back and forth on this, but I need it on the corn dog.
Yeah, I'm a supporter of the microwave, but I do think I have to agree with you on this one. I need a little bit of crunch on that corn dog as well. And I want to say something else real quick. There's a moment in the podcast in the middle where we were, maybe a little hard on people who haven't worked in restaurants, but I do just want to give a quick PSA if you haven't worked in a restaurant and you want to go on Yelp and blast someplace. If you had an issue and you talked to the manager and you kindly explained what was going on and they treated you like dirt, by all means, go on Yelp and say, screw this place. But don't just go on Yelp without saying word one when you were there, your experience, not letting the person who is working their ass off to try to keep their business afloat, keep their way of living alive, and try to give you a decent experience and not let them know why it was disappointing. And then just go on Yelp silently and completely tear them down with 1 star. That kind of behavior is unconscionable. And that's one of the other things I love about this podcast. And I think this episode in particular gives us a real peek into how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into working in a restaurant, and in particular, owning and running a restaurant. It's a monumental task to try to give any of us the experience we can have to go eat some delicious food in a nice environment. And a ton goes into it. And so I hope this episode, for anyone who has done that sort of thing and just blasted a place on Yelp because they didn't like something, gives a second thought to that before they do the next time.
And on that note, I just want everyone to remember, we want to do this. Nothing makes me happier than seeing that smile on your face when you're eating the food. That's what all of us are here for. We're weird. We're sadistic. I get it. But my position at Waterboy, I kind of joked about it. I'm Santa Claus right now. I bring out your food, I drop it for you, I get that huge grin, and then I leave. It's wonderful. That is why we do this work, is that grin.
Absolutely. It's the best part of it when somebody's enjoying what you do or just enjoying what you're a part of. Well, on that note, if you enjoyed this episode, please like or subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. We're available on every podcast platform. You can also listen on YouTube. If you like what we're doing, please share this episode with friends, family, anyone in Sacramento. Go check out Cow Cow.
Get a spam musubi.
Yes, get a spam musubi, absolutely. If you want to make any suggestions for the show, DM us on Instagram. If you want to see what we're cooking, what we're doing, check us out on Instagram. That handle is @Dine16. You can listen on our website. If you're looking for an easy way to share, just go to dine16.com. You can just send that URL to friends, family. It's really easy to listen from there. They don't have to fiddle with podcast apps if they don't know how. Our opening and closing theme music are by my brother-in-law, Mark Owens. The Dine 16 is a production of the Hear Me Now studio. We are into the thick of season 2. In 2 weeks, another whale of a guest here in Sacramento. One of the best chefs going in town, someone Neil knows really well. We cannot wait to bring this interview to you. So keep an eye on your podcast feed in 2 weeks for our next episode. And until then, as always, eat something you love with someone you love.